Welcome to the Fright Zone.
Yeah, no shit.
This is the 10th anniversary. Is the 10th anniversary. Do you think the over these 10 years that the popularity of the film has actually increased?
I don't think so.
It couldn't have increased because when this picture opened, it made its money back the first day. So if it increased, we'd all be a hell of a lot richer. I'd own this building.
But you have to admit there is no horror film like House of a Thousand Corpses. And that's what I noticed. It just stands out from all the other ones. It's so unique. No, I'd like to just tell the story how it happened. Is we did a maze at Universal for Rob's videos. I designed those videos, first maze. And Blair Witch Project had just happened. So Rob decided to pitch this film to Universal. And I was actually the first person he called because I was his designer, and we had to put together a little presentation for Universal. And all Rob wanted was $1 million and leave him alone. And he's like, Greg, think we could do a lot with $1 million? I said, yeah, you can do a lot with $1 million. Well, within 2 months, it was $3 million. And then we shot, and then we did reshoots, and it got up, and it went up to $7 million. And it went to union scale, so we started getting paid more. And then finally, the film came in at like 11 million, 12 million by the time we were done. And I was on the back lot of Universal the whole year, from the first day of February to the last day of November. Had an office. I would go into meetings, and then we'd build these big sets, bigger sets. And then Universal finally saw the film after a whole year of us on the back lot making this thing. And they said, we'll never put this out.
Stacy was interviewed by the LA Times. And one of the questions was, why did Hannibal get a thumbs up and House of a Thousand Corpses get a thumbs down? And she said, because we know that Anthony Hopkins is not that way. Can I interest y'all in some fried chicken?
So for 3 years we wandered in the wilderness. Because we shot it in 2000, and then for 3 years this film bounced around. We actually got picked up by MGM for a while. Then Rob made some funny comment that they didn't think was funny, and so we were back on the road. And finally, it looked like Rob was going to put the movie out by himself. Rob and his business manager Andy Gould. And then an angel from Lionsgate, a woman named Chayla Johnson, who was a great horror fan, saw this, I think at an early Monster Palooza, like when it was in Tarzana, one of the first ones. Somehow she saw a screening of it and brought it to the attention of her boss, Peter Block at Lionsgate. He got a screening of it and said, holy shit, we want it. And so they worked out a deal with Universal and Rob and put us in the theaters in 2003. And as Sid said, the first day we made our money back. And thanks to you fans, and thanks to the fact that, it's really makes me very proud to be a part of this because, I do this for a living, and I've been in a bunch of different movies with a bunch of different writers and directors, and tried to share and help with a lot of different visions. But I got to say, there's only a handful of people like Rob Zombie. I've worked with Sam Raimi. I've worked with Tobe Hooper. You know what I'm saying? And it's so lucky and exciting when you get together with somebody who really, has that vision, has that discipline, really wants to kick some ass, has great casting. Just everything about House of a Thousand Corpses was so exciting.
Yeah, you were the only test that we did. Remember that? We did a test of you.
Yep.
And I made a little set and everything, and they gave it to Universal. Universal says, yeah, this guy's scary. My favorite is when she opens the doors, I think it's in the film, but the guys hanging out on the sofas, like these reject guys, just hanging out.
I remember the murder ride. We're pushing the cart with the victims just waiting to go, and we're seeing this murder stuff going on around us. And then Rob said, "Wait, stop!" And he said to me, "Irwin, grab her hair." grab, fuck with her hair. And I mean, it was just a tiny, tiny little moment in the film, and Rob was right. It just added something a little special to the moment of the scene. And that's what Rob was doing. He was just constantly always putting things in there, little things, which is really what a director should do.
Yeah, we went to a big boy, had a Big Boy restaurant, and we were walking out with me and Rob, a couple other people, and he looks up at the picture of the Big Boy, and they had like a walking Big Boy. He's like, let's do something like that. And then a couple days later, I did up the design for the whole Ravelli. And then that cart was just to go by itself. It's just to be motorized and everything. And I came in with a bill, and we couldn't really afford it in the art department. So Rob's like, just have him push it.
Yeah, I pushed it. It was really hard, boy. It was heavy. That clown weighed so much. Actually, I had 2 crew guys on the side hidden.
Oh.
They did all the work.
Cheater.
I did the acting, they did the work.
They could have used some of that Colonel Sanders chicken to grease the wheels.
Let's go to the audience here. You guys came a long way back there in the yellow shirt.
First question.
Well, we're learning. We like this stuff too, so we're, it's kind of like fun for us to find this stuff out. Like I had never seen the Ravelli's room before until earlier today at Greg's
I have
table.
pictures of a lot of stuff cut out. I have the ending, the original ending, which is Chris Hardwick with all of the zombies around him and just covered in blood, and we were just throwing blood at him. And it's the picture I have, if you want to see it downstairs, it's nuts. And I think they cut that out because, I don't know, they came up with a new ending when we came back.
Somebody got the vapors.
Yeah. Universal had no idea what they were doing, and then they finally look at it and they're like, what are we doing? I can't believe we got away with what we got away with.
Universal was always known as the House of Horror.
Right.
And they had absolutely no idea of how to do a horror film.
Yeah.
Okay? It was just the most stupid thing. All they do is like tours now. That's it.
Well, they brought back the Corpse's Maze 2 years for those guys.
Amazing.
22 years. They did 3 different.
Maze was amazing.
Yeah. And when they called me up and I went to a tour and everything, I was like, how did this happen? Universal dropped this movie and now they have a maze. You got in line for the maze. It had House 1000 Corpses, clips, trailer. It was House 1000 Corpses all over the place, but it just said American Nightmare. And me and Rob would go and jump in the maze. Rob would get in a stormtrooper outfit and like just scare the shit out of people. And I would see little kids in strollers, old ladies,
The opening night of that maze, Rob and Sherry and my wife and I were the first 4 people through the door, and a guy jumps out dressed as Spalding to scare us, okay? And he jumped out right in my face, and he looked at me and went, "Holy shit!" and jumped out.
I got scared by Otis. Otis freaked me out, man. He jumped in front of me and I screamed like a schoolgirl.
I got a question about the character of Otis between the House of 1000 Corpses to Devil's Rejects. Why did that change so drastically between even to the makeup, like him being kind of like a albino to like a biker dude?
Okra. So sure, if you're an albino, just eat some okra, and it takes you a couple of weeks, and then suddenly you're an almond brother. It's amazing. Amazing. That's when I really thought that Rob was a genius. I thought that Rob was pretty damn smart and cool, when we did House of 1000 Corpses. But I thought that I don't know if Rob was ever really excited about doing a sequel anyway. I don't think Rob's a big sequel fan. But the idea that he was given that opportunity and, with that budget and with the, Lionsgate's love, and that he ended up really doing not only did the characters change, the looks of the characters, but also the genre changed, really. I think of Devil's Rejects not so much as a horror movie, but as like a violent crime, like a road picture. It's almost a different genre. And I thought that was really amazing, because most of the time you see, especially in horror movies, the sequel is basically kind of a reworked version of the original. And you're just thinking, we did good enough in the first one, so that we'll just kind of, repackage it for a second one, and maybe we'll get at least, half to 3/4 of the money. So a lot of times there's kind of a cynical plan afoot. And then, for Rob to do the Devil's Rejects, I mean, it's amazing because if you think about it, really, it's probably not more than, it shouldn't really take place more than a week or two at most after the end of House of a Thousand Corpses.
They were two totally different movies, and the end of Devil's Rejects made me cry so hard when you guys are getting shot up in the car, and I'm like, but they're a family.
Made us cry too.
It was like Bambi.
It was fucking hot.
As people in the second one, whereas in the first one, it was more just in your face, just ah. The second one, you were people. You know, it was you were more human instead of these characters, and that's why I cried at the end because, come on, Leonard Skinner, and then you guys are getting shot up. You're like, no, we're just getting to know them. You can't kill them. You know, it just.
They were murderers.
I've talked to a lot of people about this, and the changing point for most of the audience was the ice cream eating scene.
Yeah.
Because everybody said, you know what, my family would argue about ice cream. And at that point in time, we became a part of your family.
Yeah.
And just remember, there ain't no fucking ice cream in your fucking future.
All except
Tutti fucking fruity.
Any other questions here? You've already asked one, sir. Come on. Well, they brought up Skinner. How much do you think the music in both films really added?
Well, Rob didn't want to do any original music for Corpses, and he was adamant about it. It's like, people aren't expect. He didn't want to do anything people would expect. And over those 3 years, he did the music, and I love the Corpses music. God, especially that song, Dr. Wolfenstein's song, is a great song.
Were there any injuries or hazardous scenes you guys filmed during House of a Thousand Corpses?
No, well, I don't know about dangerous, okay, but when you're in the middle of the desert, in the middle of the night, wearing a satin clown costume, your nipples will get hard.
Question for Bill and Sid. In the special features on the DVD, that knock-knock joke with the punchline, Tiny fuck the stove. What the hell?
We were doing that deal, and we were talking about Tiny, and I called him a mushmouth motherfucker or something, and Bill said, well, at least he's stump broke. And Sherry, in all her innocence, okay, looked at me and said, what's stump broke? And I said, well, before you get your first piece of ass, you got to practice on something, and Tiny just couldn't give up the stump. So that's how that started.
We just took it from there.
Yep.
Is there any backstory to that, to a stump? Was it something you made up, or is it an old
No,
legend?
it just came out of conversation.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
While making House of a Thousand Corpses, did anything happen that freaked you out or scared you?
When we got the script, House of a Thousand Corpses, I read it a few times, and I had nightmares about a week. Fucking Otis scared the shit out of me.
I was okay with it.
That's right. That was just me.
I was scared the night I had to run through the Run Rabbit Run scene because I'm scared of snakes. I have like a phobia of snakes, and I had to run through all this tall grass from 11 at night till 4 in the morning, running with Sherry chasing me, Sherry wasn't scary, but I was scared just being out. We were in the middle of Santa Clarita where there are lots and lots of rattlesnakes. I was positive. And at night it was just creepy and dark and not, we were in like a wildernessy area, not an area that was at all snake-proofed. Exactly.